some people would say, well, you're elderly, but you know, the truth is I'm pretty old. So my memory isn't always perfect. But I can remember, let me see, a few Sundays ago was Easter Sunday. And I was there at the First Baptist Church of Medford, and so was my wife, Dale. The flowers were beautiful, and the music was wonderful. There was a great soloist. There was a string quartet. Oh, not only that, Reverend Matt gave such a good sermon that we needed to hear. And so it is that when I think back, I remember Easter. What a wonderful Sunday when we talk about Jesus and his resurrection. Now, I love Christmas Sunday. That's a wonderful time. We get presents, we're with our families, and it's such a happy time. But do you know that Easter is even more beautiful to me and more important? And you learn that more and more as you grow older. Well, now, there's a farmer that we're very friendly with. His name is Brad, and his wife's name is Annie. They have a wonderful farm here in Hopkinton, New Hampshire. They also have a border collie dog, and they have trained that dog to herd sheep or cows to gather them all together. And the dog does that by running back and forth to chase the animals into the barn. Well, to show us how that works, Brad and Annie closed both of the barn doors, and they let 8 piglets, little tiny pigs, out of the pen. They ran everywhere in that barn. They went into the hay. They went underneath barrels. They went everywhere. And then Annie commanded her dog to gather them back into their pen. And do you know, one by one, that dog went after those little pigs, and in they went into the pen until all 8 were gathered, and they were there for the night. Now, Jesus tells us that he is the good shepherd this Sunday, and the good shepherd doesn't do that when he wants the lambs to gather for the night. No, it's very different. You see, the shepherd in Israel leads the lambs in. He doesn't drive them from the back and threaten them in any way. He calls them, and they know that he is their friend. And so they follow him. They follow him to what is called a sheepfold. And the sheepfold is made of rock. It's high enough so the sheep can't get out of it. 3 sides of it are solid. The 3rd side has a narrow doorway into it, and no door. Well, isn't that strange? If there's no door, well, a wolf can come in the door, or an evil person that wanted to take away the lambs could just walk in. Oh, but what's wonderful is the shepherd, when he goes to bed, lies in the doorway right across it. And so it is, no one can get by that shepherd in the nighttime. The sheep are all safe. Now that's the way Jesus is with us. We are his sheep. He knows us by name. And so one day he's going to call us home. He's going to call us home to heaven. And that's what Easter is all about. Now, when I was a young boy, 9 years old, one morning there was a telephone call. And then my dad spoke to my mother, and I heard my mother start to cry. And my mother cried all day long and all into the night. You see, my mother learned that her mother had died. My grandmother had passed away, and my mother was so sad. Well, I hid from my mother and father how I felt. I'm one of 7 children. They were busy with all of us. But when I went to bed at night, I thought of my grandmother dying and how someday my mother and father would die, and someday I would die. And I cried myself to sleep night after night after night, because I really didn't understand the Easter story. And so I've told parents, and this chat is for parents as well as children. I've told parents when there is a grandparent that passes away that I want them to go at night, check on their child, see if their child is all right and not crying like I did so long ago. And sure enough, one time I had a dad come to me some weeks after the funeral for his mother. And he said to me, "Do you know what my son, he heard you say, go in and see your son." The other night he said to me, "Well, Dad, remember what Reverend Boyle said? You're to come in and check on me at night." Parents have a responsibility to our children to teach them the story of Easter, to teach them how Jesus, on this Sunday of Easter, came back from the dead. He was dead, and suddenly he came back and he said, "Look, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. Look, see my hands, my feet. See, I'm talking to you." And that's the message of Easter. We're not to be afraid of when we die. No, Jesus tells us heaven is a beautiful place. It's a place where I really believe with all my heart I'm going to sit down and talk with my mom again. I'm going to see my dad, a son, a sister, my aunts, my uncles, the people that I grew up with. Oh, I like it here. I'm in no hurry. But when God says, "It's your time, Ken," I want to remember the beautiful flowers, the way it's going to be. My grandfather died when he was young. He was in his 40s, and he'd been in a coma. And on a rainy, cold, icy December day, he woke up out of the coma, and he looked at my grandmother and he said, "Dot, can you see the flowers? Do you hear the music? Isn't it beautiful?" He was there with the sunshine and the light of Jesus' face right there with him. And someday it's there for you and me too. So don't cry yourself to sleep at night. Put a smile on your face. The Good Shepherd is right there at your doorway watching for you. Amen.